All right, let's rewind the clock back and think of a time when the internet was starting to catch on with the normies. It was a time when if you actually wrote on a resume that you know how to use Microsoft Word, that wouldn't be cringe. That would actually be taken as, well, this is probably a candidate we can use. Because when computers first came out, at least in my generation, a lot of people were considering them to be a toy, to be something that people use for entertainment. And usually offices operated on paper. But as computers did become more and more mainstream, then corporations started implementing them, and then they had to hire people that knew how to use a computer, and then the employees would buy laptops, and that's pretty much how the internet and computers in general became mainstream. And during this time, you have the urban legend of the hacker, like the hacker man. And again, like people didn't really understand what a computer is, how it functions. Like most people wouldn't even know that you can press Control and C to copy a file and then Control and V. Like they would literally just click the file, then move the mouse all over the way to file, click copy. Like seriously, like people used to do that. They had even the chicken peck way of typing. And so for them, Hacker Man was this urban legend of mystique. He was like this nefarious force that can take control of your computer, make it explode, control the lights in your house. It was so believable that when the Arrowverse made the show where one of the female characters there had the ability of super hacking, like she would just like clickety clack on the keyboard, and then the lights would shut down in a different building. Most people believed it because, again, like that's the ethos that they grew up with. Like if you don't understand how the technology works, then bullshitting is quite easy. And so, again, like the concept of the hacker, the urban legend, this powerful entity that can just break into your bank account and steal all of your cash, was quite predominant in people's minds. And so, with this comes the idea of the benevolent hacker. This is the type of hacker that operates for good. He is the type of hacker that punishes the government. He is the type of hacker that hacks banks, not because he wants to steal money, but because he wants to expose security weaknesses. And so we need to add that to the cultural zeitgeist to understand how people think. And then you had the movies that became extremely popular, way more than they should have, in my opinion. One of them being Fight Club. And in Fight Club, the whole thing is that if the average Joe, if the person taking out the garbage, the police officer, the plumber, if all of these people work together, they can destroy society. Because these people are awake when the elites sleep. Like when the elites are in bed sleeping, the police officer is still on patrol, the garbage man is still collecting the garbage. And so, again, like these people have tremendous power in society. So we add this to the zeitgeist as well. And finally, the last piece of the resistance is the V for Vendetta movie, which was a very popular film at the time. It created this theocratic society in Britain where the government is controlling everything and they're pushing their ideology into every aspect of people's lives. And so the hero of the story is a guy that's wearing this mask. And he basically says that he cannot be killed because he's not a human being. He actually represents an idea. And no matter how much you try, you cannot kill ideas if the ideas are good. Like, they will always spring back. And this is a fight against tyranny. It's a fight against an oppressive government that tries to push an ideology which contradicts reality. So now when you look at all the zeitgeist, like we got Fight Club, we got Hacker Man as the hero, we have the Guy Fawkes mask, right? Like we got the anonymous idea that everyone can be anonymous, like the government should be afraid of its people. It's not that the people should be afraid of the government. And so you create this thing, this movement called Anonymous. And the whole thing about Anonymous is, well, it's just that, right? Like it's random people on the internet that are constantly watching. They're constantly vigilant, trying to make sure that the government doesn't do abuses, that they're always going to hack the government and expose the government for what it does. And maybe like some actual hacking groups, they did at some point, like broke stories that actually did hack the government. and they used the umbrella of Anonymous in order to justify that they did. But the reality is that, well, as time moved on, the government got better technology, and these script kiddies that would hack the government would quickly be caught by the police. I mean, look what happened with WikiLeaks. Look what's happening with Snowden, right? Like, the government doesn't really tolerate people doing cybercrime. Especially now in 2025, like, cybercrime is obviously treated far more seriously than it was treated back then. And so when I see Anonymous come out and have like this interesting speech on Twitter about Donald Trump and his administration, most people can't help but to say that it's extremely cringe. It's like something from a bygone era. It's like something that doesn't make sense anymore. And this is for several reasons. Like, number one, in the last couple of years, Anonymous, as far as I know, haven't actually accomplished anything, right? Like, they haven't hacked the Biden administration to expose who had the cocaine in the White House, or to find out what was up with the boot sex in the Senate, right? Like, none of that. But they obviously, like, had various talking points, all of them left-leaning. Like, if you try to infiltrate Anonymous with Democrat operatives, like, I don't know what else they could do, because they already are kind of like Democrat operatives. But the interesting thing about it, just so you can understand how funny this whole thing is that this is their Twitter account where they released their latest video talking against dictator Trump. And, you know, they got 5.1 million followers. I mean, this is really great. But the only thing that I don't get is that if the name is Anonymous, why is the account verified with an ID? Like something doesn't add up here, you know? Can anyone explain to me the inconsistency? Like, maybe you think it's time for a rebranding? Like, how are you Anonymous when you're actually showing who you are? And then, of course, you know, their entire shtick is to get people to join them on Blue Sky. Which, again, it's very interesting. Because, like, the whole thing with Anonymous is that they're everywhere, right? Like, they can be you, they can be me, they can be anyone. And all of us can be, like, highly skilled trade hackers that can break into the government's database and hold the government accountable and make the government afraid of the people. And so, like, the government is more honest. Because, again, like, that was the ethos back then. And now what we're having is, like, I don't see how they're that different than any other left-leaning organization. And as far as I know, they're not even breaking interesting stories. They're, like, just posting stuff like this. Dictator Trump. Elon Musk is poisoning the discussion. We got birth of a new nation, right, with Epstein behind, and then you have, like, neo-Nazis and conspiracy theorists and Russia and all of it. And to me, it looks more like a leftist publication, I guess, like the Young Turks when they were at the peak of insanity. I mean, they're not the activist group that they used to be. And now it seems that they're basically, like, defending the government from getting audited? Like, is this what the left is against? You know, like, sure, you can say that Elon Musk is a grifter, you can dislike Donald Trump, like, that's fine. But when they want to audit the Pentagon, as far as I know, based on my understanding of American politics, that would be a bipartisan issue. Like, do we even have those anymore? Or, like, bipartisan issues is only when a single rhino agrees with the Democrats? Because a bipartisan issue would be like, yeah, like, why shouldn't the government be audited? Like, the government is more than happy to audit the citizens. They're probably more than happy to audit Anonymous. But you're saying that the government shouldn't be audited at all? Why not? And this is the predicament that they find themselves in, and this is why they're not as popular as they used to be. It's just like an interesting way when you look at the history and how this thing came to be, what it accomplished, and where it is now. You know, they're saying binding chaos, but the chaos seems to be very organized. It's promote the Democrat agenda at any cost, even when the government is being audited. Omoshiroi. Let me know what you guys think, though. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.